Hello, you're very welcome to the first Under Centre podcast of 2026. Dara here with you, joined as always by Fionn. This, of course, is the NFL show, and we are delighted to have you here with us for the next 40 to 45 minutes or so to have a look ahead to the playoffs, a little bit back at the season. You know, we had the infamous what they call Black Monday this past Monday, where head coaches find out whether or not they're going to have a job next year. So we'll discuss all of that. But Fionn, first of all, I haven't seen you since before Christmas. How was the break? And are you feeling reinvigorated ahead of 2026? But also, I should mention the most important thing: congratulations are in order.
Yes, thank you very much. We got engaged over the Christmas break, so that was the big thing in
Not
our
us.
household. Yeah,
Not us. No, not
not
us.
us. Not
We didn't
you
get
know, just
engaged.
under the walls. We don't live under the same house. Uh, yeah, another UCP wedding on the way. You mentioned the word reinvigorated. I don't know if that's the word I would use coming out of the Christmas break. About 10 kilos heavier than I was coming into it, so maybe actually a bit sluggish. I need to get moving a little bit and shake the cobwebs off. But you were, of course, really referring to the NFL schedule, and that is heating up. I'm looking forward to it. Looks a little bit different than it has in previous years, which is exciting. Uh, Suspiciously similar though, as well, to maybe the previous era. Everything goes in circles. Time is a flat circle, and we've come back, and the Patriots are good again. The Bills are still good, and all this kind of stuff that we're going to chat about. So, yeah, it's going to be really, really tasty. Obviously, your team's still in it. Rian's team's still in it, which is probably something no one suspected preseason. And of course, my team has already gone off to Mexico on their holidays. I think we got one Pro Bowl player, so they're fully done. The Commanders have nothing left to do except replace a few coaches.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because it's almost a full 180 from last season, this time last year, because
Yep.
this time last year, the Panthers and the Seahawks were eliminated from playoff
Mm-hmm.
contention. And it was your Commanders that were only starting their journey to the NFC Championship. And now, obviously, you have a winter off to look at the games independently and without bias, not like you would normally anyway. But you know, obviously, then myself and Reen, we have our own ones. Well, I don't have anything to look forward to this weekend in terms of Seahawks game because rewards for getting the number one seed, which we'll talk about, is meaning that they have a week off, which could be crucial, especially with some guys hurt at the moment. To get them back is going to be massive. Same for the Broncos side of things. Of course, they are the number one seed on the AFC side of things. You know, we look at it. There wasn't an awful lot going into week 18 in terms of who needed what to get into the playoffs. There was a
Mm-hmm.
couple of placings in terms
Yeah.
of the AFC South, where we still had to find out who the winner of that division was going to be, and who was going to be the sixth seed or the fifth seed. It turns out, obviously, with the Jaguars' big win at home to the Colts, they won the AFC South, and not the Colts, sorry, the Titans, and the Texans, with their win against the Colts, had to settle for second place in the division, but meaning they are fifth seed, going up against probably the AFC side of things that had the most on the AFC side of things, against the team that had the most to play for in week 18. Of course, that was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They won the AFC North, beating the Baltimore Ravens
Mm.
due with a last second field goal miss by their kicker. You know, just beforehand, of course, Rodgers hit Calvin Austin with a touchdown with less than 2 minutes to go. I think Fionn, no, I didn't stay up live to watch it. I only watched the highlights, so I guess I don't get the sort of same tension as you would when you see the highlights the next day. But I'm sure a lot of fans went through a whole wave of emotions on both sides in terms of the Ravens going from thinking they lost it to thinking they won it and then they've lost it, to the Steelers thinking they've won it, thinking they've lost it, and now obviously they did win it, meaning they get into the playoffs.
Yeah, obviously a huge amount of focus on this show recently with Charlie Smith moving into the kicker position, and we've been trying to do for any of the more peripheral listeners that we have, that maybe our family or whatever, who really only listen to us and don't necessarily follow week in, week out the NFL, trying to explain the nuance of the kicking position. And we've really, whenever you talk about it, you really have to hammer home just how cutthroat it is. Like, these guys do nothing. If they hit all 5 kicks in a game, or they hit 5 kicks in a game, they get a pat in the back and say, well done. If they miss the last kick of the game, all of a sudden it's a huge problem, and it can not just change in season the games, the results, but also, as you saw on the weekend, really hypercritical moments. And it'll happen again. This will be during the playoffs, something to watch out for. Who can get their kickers inside the 50 with a couple of seconds to go, usually inside 10 seconds, they'll try and launch a kick. So this is where the really top end of the kicking community earn their cash, is in the playoffs and on those pressure kicks. You feel really sorry for the guys, because obviously they've literally no other impact on the game. They cannot redeem themselves on defense. They cannot make the next catch. He missed that kick. Tyler Luke missed that kick, the second of the 2 kicks to miss, the one for the Baltimore Ravens. And that was the end of the game. Walk off, Steelers win. I think another thing that I want to talk about that game in particular is, whenever we talk to players, and we've been lucky in previous seasons to be able to do that on occasions, on some top-notch coaches as well, this is the situations I find most interesting, because a lot of sports teams these days, there's a lot of sports psychologists, there's a lot of physical education that has gone on and research gone in, that a lot of sports train very effectively, very efficiently. They manage time. It is well understood the goals and the keys that you need to be an effective football team. What I want to know is now, how do the Steelers self-talk to themselves coming into this playoff game against a strong Texans team that finished the season really strongly with a lot of wins, specifically for themselves, right? We've both been in locker rooms. I've been in locker rooms with rah-rah guys, that is to say, guys who are highly motivating and motivated and take everything personally and play with a lot of emotion. I never really felt like I was that guy. I was trying to be a leader where I could. I was definitely a quieter background, organizational style, more than a stand up on my box and start shouting. But I find that really interesting. Do the Steelers come in and say, well, look, we should have won that game because we missed our own kick beforehand, and that would have put it out of reach of the Ravens? Or do they say, look, we need to change something because we're only in by the skin of our teeth? If that kick from inside the 50, which is kind of in the NFL, that's your metric, your kicker should really be hitting inside the 50 these days, or at least with the new ball rules. That's fascinating for me. Are there guys in the locker room going, "Phew, we just barely got in," or is it immediately blank? Fuck it, we won, we're in. That's it, done. Who cares how? On to the next game. That's the fascinating part of the playoffs for me.
Yeah, I think it's a thing that depends on the day. Obviously, in the heat of the moment, everyone is going to be like, "Fuck it, we just won.
Yeah.
Let's like celebrate. We're in the playoffs. We're playing again next week. The season's not over." I think, especially for coaches, and maybe some sort of senior players and stuff, like maybe some players that maybe underperformed, they could think about it the next day when the adrenaline has worn off, and think, this defense isn't good. You know, we're playing against an injured Lamar. We should have had this game out of sight.
Yep.
But we let them come back in. And if we do the same thing this week against the Texans, they won't let us back in, because that Texans defense is night and day compared to how the Ravens defense is playing at the moment. CJ Stroud is playing an awful lot better for the Texans. Nico Collins should be back. That's a proper number one receiver. And, you know, the tale of Lamar's time with the Ravens is that he's never really had a proper number one. He's had either old vets or draft picks come in, or you know, maybe guys who we traditionally don't see as a number one receiver. But on the other side of it too, Fionn, and you know, I wonder what your thoughts are on it. That maybe playing that close of a game, coming through by the skin of your teeth, is a good motivating factor for this game, so that they don't rest on their laurels, so that they know that they have to up their performance if they want to get into the divisional round next week.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case, to be honest with you. If I'm guessing what's going on in the locker room, I would say it's probably more the case of it's a shrug and said, hey, look, we've played like this all season. They have not really been dominant at any point during the season. Sometimes they've actually looked really lackluster on offense. They've always managed to figure it out, and they've managed to put it together, not just enough wins to make the playoff, but also win the division. So that's hugely important. So that to me suggests that the mindset is really strong. It's not glamorous, but then the whole Steelers ethos never has been. It's been hard-nosed defensive football, and get through what you have on offense, run the ball well in years gone by. And I think this year as well is really where it's going to go. Aaron Rodgers has not been slinging the ball down the field. I personally don't think that's for his age only. I think he understands that defenses are already, I would argue, quite top conscious these days in the NFL. They want to play everything down in front of them. And part of Aaron Rodgers' advantage these days is very similar to Brady's in the last era of his career, where his advantage is he essentially has the playbook open in front of him on the center's back. And he can get them into whatever he's seeing pre-snap so that he can dink and dunk down the field. But it's not the same as a rookie quarterback coming in where it's literally dump offs. He knows where the weak spots in the defense are. And it can get very frustrating then as a defense because it feels like the game is not explosive. You have everything contained, but actually you don't, because the reason they're getting all these receptions, turning over first downs and keeping the ball moving, even when you're not giving up chunk plays, is because I believe Rodgers is getting them into the right positions and getting the right receivers into the right areas of the zone or the right man matchup. That means he doesn't have to sling it 40 yards. Maybe he can't. But my point is, he is now in a position where, as the season's gone on, he's become way more comfortable, and he now has that full playbook. He can get them wherever he needs them to be pre-snap so that all the damage is done before the ball is even in play.
Mm-hmm. I get you with that. And look, maybe it is a case, and I don't really want to compare Rodgers to Philip Rivers, but teams are maybe loading the box or maybe playing with a shell against these quarterbacks because they don't believe they have the arm strength anymore to sling it, like you said. And especially last weekend without their number one receiver in DK Metcalf serving the second of his 2-game suspension for what happened in Detroit, that did limit the playbook an awful lot. So I don't know. I think it's.
I don't think they're coming in. I don't think they're coming into the playoffs healthy. Let's say that. And I mean in terms of their form. I don't think they're coming in strong. It's going to be a battle and a scrap the whole way through the playoffs. I certainly won't have them favorites in any of the games that they play. But as I said, that's how it's been all season. So the mentality is going to be there on their end that they can get a result at any point. And that's the beauty of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's one and done from now in. But I'm fully on board with you there. I'm not trying to suggest that this season has actually been subtly way better than it has looked on tape. It's looked very rough at times. They have not been super hot coming into the playoffs. It's not like the last 4 or 5 games have been nice, comfortable wins for them. This scrappiness has been around all season, and sometimes that can bite you in the ass, especially around playoffs.
Yeah. Onto the NFC side of things, we had the biggest, I think, aspect of Week 18 coming into that was obviously the Buccaneers and the Panthers game. The Buccaneers came out on top in that game on Saturday evening, but it didn't automatically put them in the playoffs and as an NFC South winner, even though they had the head-to-head over the Panthers, because it all came down to that game on Sunday between two teams that had nothing to play for, and that was, of course, the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. If the Saints won, the Bucs would be in. If the Falcons won, the Panthers would be in, and that's of course what happened. The Falcons winning that game, meaning the Panthers with an 8-9 record and win the NFC South. Look, the NFC South has come in for a lot of criticism the last few years. I think justifiably, just due to the poor nature and poor quality of the teams. I know sometimes the NFC East gets that sort of moniker too, but I think that the NFC South has really struggled the last few years. Dave Canal has done a really good job with the Panthers and sort of bringing them up right and making Bryce Young a passable NFL level quarterback. But I guess the concerning side of things is, well, not the concerning side. They will entertain the Rams on Saturday. That's going to be the first playoff game actually at the weekend. A game that they actually have already won this season in the same setting, and I wonder, Fionn, do you think Lightning could strike twice here?
Well, the bookies don't, because I just have them on the ESPN app here. They're 10-point underdogs at home, which is super disrespectful. Now, that's the way for anyone who doesn't know, that's the way the NFL structures its playoff seeding. It's not 100% your record at the end of the day. It's the 4 winners of the division. The best record of the 4 winners gets the bye week. They're the number 1 seed, and then it goes by it goes by record of division winners, and then the wild cards get settled down as 5, 6, and 7 seed then after that. So they are the 4th seed, but they certainly wouldn't be the 4th total seed or unbracketed seed for sure. They'd be the 7th seed. I'm going to be a little bit harsh here, Dara. I watched the game, or at least most of the game, against the Buccaneers. The Panthers had no idea how to win that game. It was torrential weather. The weather was horrific in the first half. I don't blame them, but it just from the play calling, there was a lot of whinging about the refs. Some of it was that there was one that was an absolute spoof job. Certainly those refs will be nowhere near the playoffs. I think they're going to be quietly demoted, like when they tried to call the backwards pass. Just say it's inadvertent whistle. Like, that can happen. Then they try to say, no, the ball went out of bounds or some crap. The pass interference stuff, the one on the OPI on the Panthers, I could see a little bit more. I think because the hand went up around the head, that's really where the flag came from. The trip to me looked like your man on the defensive pass interference. Looked like the Bucs receiver tripped on his own to me. But yeah, beyond that, I think the Panthers fans are picking on that a little bit. But I believe Canales didn't have a game plan that he thought was actually going to win the game. They couldn't run the ball at all. They couldn't pass the ball at all. Okay, weather didn't permit it in the first half, but the second half didn't get that much better, in my opinion. So that, for me, is the huge problem against the Rams, and the reason I don't think that Lightning can strike twice. And I have a suspicion that you and the majority of the other fans are in the same boat as me, that this is absolutely not a hot take. It's a fairly stone cold take, but that they just haven't had much gumption in the last few weeks that tells me that they know what they do really well. And I'm going to go back, but because I watched all the games, the Commanders last season, who were not a good enough team, in my opinion, to make it to the NFC Championship game, but they knew what they could do well that was going to hurt teams, and they just came up against a couple of teams that could not figure out how to stop what they were going to do well and get the win. I think Carolina's problem is they don't know what that is for them. They don't know the bit that they do that's really difficult to guard against. I think they're a very average team. The record obviously suggests that. Again, none of this is top-level inside analyst stuff. I'm not pulling an Al here and whipping stats out of 18 games of the season. This is pretty cut and dry, in my opinion. What do you think? Do you give them any glimmer of hope other than the fact that it's the NFL and any given Sunday? But do you see anything analytically from your point of view that you think they could or should lean on against the Rams? You get to see the Rams a lot more than I do, I have to admit.
Yeah, I think for the Rams, and I think they were caught off guard in that game against the Panthers. Absolutely. I think though what they have, what has been sort of going under the radar a little bit is that the Rams defense has taken a huge step backwards from the first part of the season. If I look at here, if I just get my ESPN open here and just have a
They've
look,
been missing, right?
the
Weren't we?
last
We were
the last
chatting about
20. Go ahead.
we were chatting about this when they played the Seahawks, weren't we? There's a couple of defensive heads on the Rams that were out injured, kind of pretty significant this season.
Yeah, well, if you look at from the Panthers game, okay, which they lost 31-28. They can see the 31 in that game, 17 at the Cardinals the next day, 34 at home to the Lions, 38 at the Seahawks, 27 at the Falcons, and then another 20 this weekend at home to the Cardinals. The defense has struggled, and I think what they have struggled with a lot is their rush defense. And I think that is where, if the Panthers have a chance, is where they're going to have to target. Because if you take, say, even the last 2 weeks for the Panthers, the game against the Seahawks and then the game against the Bucs there last week, they have run the ball very well this year with Rico Dowdle and then Chuba Hubbard backing up. And I think that is where they can hurt the, like I said, that's where they can hurt the Rams. But will they be able to do it? Will they be able to do it enough? And will they be able to?
And that's the scary question for me there, because that's what I saw. That's basically what the Rain did against the Buccaneers, right? The Rain told everybody, we're all going to run the ball now. You know what we're going to do. So come on, who's got the better O-line? Who can build a gap and like literally sledgehammer it 3 yards at a time, 3 yards in a cloud of dust or a puddle of mud at that point. And so that's what I'm worried about of going, are the Rams just going to go, you know what? Make Young beat us in the air. We know you're good at running the ball and we're going to try and stop you. I don't know. What has the Rams run defense been like this season? How are they ranked against the run? I feel like it hasn't been too much of an issue.
Let me have a look. See here.
Yeah, but that's the other. While you're looking up that, I was also thinking. I think
the Rams are 12th in the Rams are 12th in the league for
about average
rush defense. Yeah,
good.
The one thing as well that from the first game I forgot about just until now was the Rams actually were missing. I think 2 important defensive players. One was J.C. Horn, and I think the other was...
You're talking about the Panthers?
The Panthers, sorry, yeah. J.C. Horn, and I think, was it Trayvon Mulrig was serving a 1-game suspension after he cup-checked Juwan Jennings of the Panthers, or the 49ers, I should say. And they still won that game. And obviously, as long as nothing happens this weekend, they should be back, which is going to be huge for them because Devontae Adams could be back to help Puka Nacua. So they're going to need all their DBs available for this game because now they have enjoyed running a lot of 13 personnel this year. So they have their tight end trio of, I think it's Terrace Ferguson, Kobe Parkinson, and Tyler Higbee. So they are really influential in the passing game as well. So we'll see with that. I do think that the Rams are going to win. The Seahawk fan in me hopes they don't. But I think I can only see it.
It's where my money would go. And I think Nacua is on for a big night. But I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, I think the 10-point underdog is unfair a little bit. Like, we just looked at it there. Okay, it's a little harsh on the stats. The eyeballs, as we said, and we both agreed, what they put on tape last Sunday against the Buccaneers, or Saturday, I think it was. That was a problem. But like statistically, they're both right around the middle in terms of stopping the rush and stopping the pass. So we'll see. But if anyone's going to show up, it's going to be Nakua. He has been unbelievable. I just think anytime you get a player that starts getting that hype, it's a bit like it's not exactly the same, but it's a bit like what's his name? The defensive end for the Browns, Garrett.
Myles Garrett, yeah.
Myles Garrett, where as the season, the more and more dangerous he gets, and the further along the season it goes, the more double teams and then triple teams. Like teams kind of learn and go, well, we're not going to let you beat you. And I find it funny, the same thing. Like Puka Nacua has proved over and over again. He's like, he's the guy on this Rams team that's gonna really do you damage. Like figure him out, and they just have not been able to slow him down, even though he's become far and away the number one receiver on that. And as you said, even on days where he doesn't have Devontae Adams, he still finds a way to make unbelievable catches and have a bucket load of yards. So that's been, I think, the most, because there's amazing receivers everywhere. They can all make spectacular catches, but he can do it even when the other team knows he's going to be basically the only man the Rams are going to target.
Yeah. Well, Devontae Adams is, of course, their red zone threat as well. I think he is the go-to guy in the red zone. It's the stats prove. I think he has 8 touchdowns in the red zone. I think maybe 10. And that is something that they have missed in the last few weeks since he's been out injured. But I think they let him sit, knowing that this is the game that he's going to come back in. So we'll wait and see on that.
Well, I just found one stat, Dara, that could doom the Carolina Panthers. I just went on the offensive side of the ball, and the Rams are the number 1 team on points per game, as you pointed out, and the Panthers are in the bottom 6 on points per game. So the Panthers are going to have to hope it's a low-scoring game.
Well, that'll be up to the defense to make sure that it is to give them a chance. I think it's as long, and we saw on that game on Saturday that it looked for so long that the Panthers had no offense to speak of. I think they had 5 yards rushing the whole game.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was abysmal.
Yeah, but if they can keep it close, which they did in the fourth quarter, there's still a chance. Dave Canales comes from the Pete Carroll school of coaching, where you can't win a game in the first quarter, can't win a game in the second quarter, can't win a game in the third quarter, but you can win a game in the fourth quarter.
Flea flicker in the rain, like that was insane.
That was insane. But I still have an issue with that. With Bryce Young in that. Bryce Young did the Cam Newton Super Bowl 50 moment where he
didn't want to dive on
went into the business for himself and didn't want to dive on it. Now, obviously, in hindsight, it doesn't mean anything because they made it to the playoffs. But if the Falcons didn't win that game on Sunday, I think that could have been a pivotal moment that
makes a big difference.
Could have meant that the Panthers didn't make it. But anyway, enough about one game.
Yep.
Because I'm a little conscious, obviously, of the time, and we've only got about maybe 20 minutes left. Quickly, I want to do a quick run through of the games, and give me a 1 or 2 sentence on who you're picking and why. So, Rams Panthers.
Rams Panthers. We spent a while on this. I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams because of Nacua and just the need for the Panthers to keep the game low scoring. That's a very difficult ask against the highest scoring offense in football. Well, where are you going to go on that one?
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams as well. I think despite the fact that they have their defensive stars back in this game where they didn't have it in their first meeting, despite still winning, I still think Devontae Adams is such a big threat in the red zone that I don't think they'll be able to handle him. And the one thing we didn't talk a lot about is their rushing attack is so good with Blake Corum and Kyron Williams. I think there's too many weapons there for the Panthers to try and stop, especially in a playoff scenario. I think they might nerves might get the better of them. Packers v Bears.
Packers v Bears, I think, is an interesting one. I've been a Bears hater all season. I'm going to continue to be a Bears hater. I think Caleb Wilson has made improvements, but I don't think he's the reason that the Bears are doing well. I think DeAndre Swift is. He got shut down by the Lions on Sunday, and Caleb Williams couldn't score a touchdown to the fourth quarter. So I'm going to take the Packers. They rested Love. He should be healthy. They have started to understand how the offense needs to work. So I'm going to go Love and the Packers for that one. Are you in agreement, or are you going to go against me on that?
Before that 49ers game, I would have said I'd gone for the Bears, but I think I'm going to go for the Packers on the basis that Josh Jacobs is, well, no one's fully fit at this stage of the season, but Josh Jacobs is fit enough to influence the game because they've been pushing him out there previous weeks and he's been clearly unfit and he should be not anywhere near a field. So hopefully the week off last week did him good. If he can stay fit, I think they have a chance. So I'm going to go with the Packers on that one. But I wouldn't actually be surprised either way. Sunday, Bills versus Jaguars.
Bills versus Jaguars, super interesting one. This could be big for a legacy. I think the Bills have to win this, but I'm going to take the Jaguars. I think a lot of teams struggled. I haven't had a big sample size of them. They've obviously won a lot of games this season. And I saw Strange, the tight end, absolutely obliterated the Titans. Now, that's not a good bar, but a lot of teams struggle against really good tight ends because there aren't that many in the league. I'm worried for the Bills that they could be one of those teams. Josh Allen is liable to have a wobbly game every so often. So I'm going to take the Jags on this one, which first time I've gone against the spread so far. How do you see this AFC matchup going?
This is Josh Allen on the Bills' best, maybe last chance to make a Super Bowl. I think they get the job done in this round. I think they beat the Jaguars just about. I'd say maybe a last-second field goal wins it for them. 49ers v. Eagles. I'll go first on this one if you want.
Go ahead, yeah.
I'm going to go Eagles. I think the 49ers are beat up. I think the injuries are finally catching up on them. Trent Williams, I don't know if he's going to play. Who was the other? Ricky Pearsall was the other one that was injured. I don't think he's going to play. I think Christian McCaffrey is playing with a back injury at the moment. The Eagles' defense is still, their starters had a week off last week. And I think that they are going to take care of the home advantage and win that game.
Yep. I think this is one of the more interesting ones on the slate for this weekend. Very evenly matched, as you said. I think the Eagles can be dysfunctional and the defense hasn't looked as dominant as it has in seasons gone by, albeit they're a legit playoff team. They've been playing reasonably well. It's not like they've been awful all season. I want to take the 49ers just because when I never know, I usually just go with the quarterback I think is better. And I actually think the 49ers have found a good quarterback and his name's gone blank right when I need it. Help me out.
Say again, sorry?
49ers quarterback name?
Brock Purdy.
Gone. Brock Purdy. I like Purdy. I think he showed up well in the last couple of weeks of the season. I don't like Hurts. However, I do agree with you that the rest of the offensive unit definitely looks better for the Eagles than it does for the 49ers. But I'm not sure. I'm going to go against the spread. I'm going to take the 49ers on this one.
Okay. Chargers v. Patriots.
Chargers v. Patriots. I think the Chargers are limping. I don't like the look of what they've done so far. They did manage to rest a few bodies last week, which might help them out, especially on defense. But I think the Patriots have had an easy road into the playoffs, but I like them. You know what? I like what they've been doing. I really like that 2-punch run game that they have. I think it's genuinely explosive and difficult to deal with for most teams. I'm going to take the Patriots in this one, especially home field advantage as well. From the sunny Chicago Dome team have to go and play in outdoor Gillette Stadium.
That's Los Angeles.
Oh, it's in Los Angeles, is it?
Yeah, it's in Los Angeles. No, you said the sunny Chicago team. Yeah, but
did I? Sorry, yes. The sunny LA team, has to go. The Dome team has to go play outdoors in Gillette. Not many more unpleasant places to play. So I'm going to give the edge to the Patriots on this one.
Yeah, I'm going Patriots. They've looked really strong all year, even despite who they're playing in the schedule. Chargers, for me, just don't seem like a complete roster that can make moves in the playoffs. Could be proven wrong, but
they don't have a
I'm
run
gonna
game.
go.
They've really struggled.
Yeah, I think Najee Harris was meant to be their big guy, but he went down in the second game of the season. Their rookie running back is it Omarion
Vidal.
Hampton?
And Vidal
no,
is
Omarion
their
Hampton.
leader. Oh,
yeah, but Hampton was meant to be.
Hampton is
He was meant to be the
questionable.
guy. Yeah, he was meant to be the guy, but he struggled with injuries since he's come into the league. So I don't know if he'd be able to do. It'll be interesting. Two rookie running backs in Hampton and Henderson. It'd be interesting to see who outperforms who.
And Bozeman, the center, is also questionable with concussion.
Okay, interesting. That'd be a huge loss, especially on an already beat up offensive line, and a broken-handed. I was going to say Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, Justin Herbert. Monday, the last game, Texans against Steelers. Like we sort of talked a lot about it already, but who are you going to go for?
Yeah, I think the Texans have come in exactly as you want your team to come into the playoffs. They got hot right at the end. I think they're coming in with a great offensive performance on the week gone by. They've had 5 games on the bounce now, scoring over 20 points in each of them. I think they're going to be a real problem for the Steelers. I think they have an excellent first two levels of the defense, and that's going to cause problems for those checkdowns, short games. It's about whether they can keep up with Aaron Rodgers at the line. So I'm going to take the Texans in this one.
Yeah, I think the Texans defense is going to be too much for the Steelers offense. I think that's their Steelers defense. I don't think is going to be good enough to stop CJ Stroud and the offense. Although their rushing attack is not as good, is not in a place where I'd like it to be right now if I was a Texans fan. But Nico Collins is a stud as a wide receiver. Jaden Higgins, the rookie wide receiver, is now coming in to his own and getting comfortable. And I'm going to say Texans win in this game. Right, let's move on and let's have a little chat about head coaches and head coach vacancies.
The coaching carousel.
Yes.
You want to give a rundown of
I'll give a rundown.
Knocked off.
I was going to say, speaking of carousel, one of the head coaches gone is Pete Carroll. He lost his job with the Raiders. He's one and done after a 3-14 year with the team, securing the number 1 pick in this year's draft for the team. The Browns have decided to move on from Kevin Stefanski after 6 seasons, I should say, with the team. Jonathan Gannon is out as the Arizona Cardinals head coach after 2 seasons. Same with Raheem Morris. He's only got 2 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons. He's been let go. And then, of course, earlier on this season, we had the Titans getting rid of their head coach, Bill Callahan? I can't even remember now at this stage.
I think it was.
Yeah, and their Giants also got rid of Brian Dable as their head coach. So there's 6 openings at the moment. And I think, Fionn, with the Raiders, we're not surprised. I think the Cardinals were not surprised either. But, okay, the Browns maybe not a surprise to some. Was a little bit to me. I think Stefanski's not that bad of a head coach. I think he's just been given a bit of a raw deal in Cleveland. I said that I thought Raheem Morris was on the hot seat and he could have been let go on a previous show, which Fionn was very surprised by. Not yet Fionn, sorry, Reen was very surprised by. But he's been let go as well. Is there anyone that you're surprised still has a job?
That jumps in my head, I think the Miami Dolphins sticking with McDaniels so far, I think has been good. We've seen a lot of head coaches get axed in the way that I think is unfair is when your starter goes down, a little bit like what Morris had to deal with this season, where your starter goes down, you got to deal with the backup. Like, that's a bit unfair. You've set up the team to work with a starter, and it hasn't worked. And any team is going to struggle to get wins without their starter. So I think McDaniels has been around there for a while, and it had looked really ugly, and there was a lot of sounds coming out. So I think McDaniels is definitely the one that stands out to me as the most at risk. Still survived Black Monday, or at least at time of recording had survived Black Monday. I think on the other end, the one I'm most surprised, or I think that could feel most hard done by, as I mentioned, is probably Morris. I don't know if you agree, Dara, but it sounds like Rian must have agreed in the show. Just like they did all right to end the season. It wasn't spectacular. It didn't look great, but they won. They got some wins. I think they won 4 of their last 5 or 5 of their last 6, which is pretty good going. Again, like I said, he didn't want to play Kirk Cousins. He
It's
wanted to
easy
go
though
with Penix.
to say. Sorry, I was just going to say, just to jump in quick then before I forget my point.
Yeah, go.
It's easy to give props to a team that have won, say, 4 of their last 5, but
Yeah,
they won 4 of their last 5 when they were eliminated from the
true,
playoffs and they had
true,
nothing to play
true.
for.
Yeah,
So the seatbelt is off, or you're able
yeah,
to, the wings are let loose a little bit.
sure. But a lot of other teams couldn't do that. The Jets couldn't. The Giants couldn't. They've all lost. Do you know what I mean? So,
The
uh,
Jets never can do anything. They can't
never
even
can
get
do
an
anything. But
interception.
you know, I don't think. I think it's put it like this. If I was the head, if I was the owner, it would just give me enough to like just pause, just put a little question mark or an asterisk, or like come back to this midway through next season. I think, look, he got the guys to fight when they had nothing to fight for. He won. The teams they were playing against, I don't know off the bat exactly who they played on those last 5 games, but for sure they didn't play only knocked out or mathematically eliminated teams. So I
Well,
think that
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think they were the most, how can you say it, the most bipolar team in the league
yeah.
this year,
Oh well,
because
no.
they,
Didn't Panthers go since week 7? They've been win loss, win loss, win loss, win loss.
well, yeah, but in terms of what I mean is they've gone from beating teams like the Bills and the Rams to
Yeah,
losing games against the Jets. Uh, you know, um,
yeah. Like hold on,
Sorry,
they beat. I just
like the
pulled it up
Jets and,
here.
and the Jets and the Dolphins. They would
I
lose
think
games against
that's
them.
Yeah, I think that's what lost them, Dara. I think that loss against the really poor Jets is probably
Mhm.
when the letter was signed to say thanks very much. Because the end of the season, they obviously got obliterated by the Seahawks. That's fine. But after that, they beat the Buccaneers, who were still in contention. They beat the Cardinals, who were gone. They beat the Rams, who were still in contention. And then they
Mhm.
beat the Saints, who, again, neither of them were in contention, but they did rack out the end of the season. Both teams wanted to win. They didn't rest anybody. So I
Mhm.
think, look, all I'm saying is, of the list, I think Stefanski, the shit show at quarterback this season, you just cannot have that, right? You got to get your ducks in a row. He hadn't a clue
Well,
what was going on. That's why I think he had to go out.
I wonder how much say he had in the
Maybe none. Maybe
Deshaun
none, right? But
Watson
yeah,
trade years ago, because
yeah,
if he was a driving force in that, well, then yeah, okay, sack him, because that the money that they spent, or not the money, the draft capital, and how far they set that team back
yeah.
just with
Well, the
that
money
pick
as well,
alone
like the
for that
guarantees
trade.
that they piled into that hamstrings
Fully
you on
guaranteed
signing other.
contract, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well,
The dead
that's not on
money.
Stefanski. That's on the GM and the owner to give him that.
Yeah.
That the head coach would not really have a say when it comes to contracts and stuff.
So
Um,
obviously Titans. Some of the other ones that are
yeah,
more obvious, like Gannon on the Cardinals, 2 seasons really where nothing has ever looked particularly hot,
yeah.
especially like you're wasting Trey McBride, who's shown that he is by far and away the best tight end in football right now, bar none. So you're kind of wasting him. You haven't figured out your quarterback. Same with the Giants. They've all had a couple of bites at the cherry. Your second year, if you're losing by that much, like 4 or 5 win seasons, I think you're in real trouble, because ownership these days are like, well, hold on. You had in theory 2 drafts to get your shit together, and nothing's looking good. So yeah, I think that's
Mhm.
the one. If I'm looking at who I think is going to get rehired, I would say probably Stefanski. I would say probably Morris, just based on their reputation not having taken too much of a hit coming out of this
Well,
season?
I think a lot of them. Well, I think Carroll will probably retire.
I think he should. I think he should
Stefanski,
be done.
yeah, Stefanski will get a hey. If he wants to go back to college like Belichick did, he can do
Possibly,
that.
yeah.
But I think
yeah.
NFL is done for him. Stefanski will definitely get another head coaching job. Gannon, I think, could go back to being a DC.
Yes,
I think
and I'm not saying none of them will get hired. Yeah, I think you're right. I'm just saying who's going to manage to leverage straight into another head coach. I think those are the two names that sit with me at the top. Obviously, we should mention Cliff Kingsbury also. I guess he wasn't fired. They technically said they mutual decision. We had a conversation offline. I personally think it was. I think he's been talking to people around, at least within his own camp, that says, because obviously there's tampering even for coaches, so you gotta take your time. But I would say I would be surprised if he doesn't end up in a head coaching position, like to leave.
Well, I was just going to say sorry, because I don't know if you followed Justine Anderson, a reporter on Twitter, but she sort of gave some insight into why this move was made. Because, like you mentioned, when we talked offline, we were very interested in it because, he was one of the names that was tipped for a head coach role, or even to get interviews, and for him to just leave his job, leave his position like this without even taking interviews is interesting. But supposedly the understanding is Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury discussed the long-term vision for the offense and Jaden Daniels, and the two didn't see eye to eye. Quinn's strength, well, this is what she's saying. Quinn's strength, in my estimation, isn't calling the defense, to be determined on if he returns to that after leading upcoming hiring process for both coordinators. So it seems as though, however, what way Cliff Kingsbury wanted to take the offense forward wasn't in line with Dan Quinn's view for the offense for the team.
I wonder, is that mostly hinged around how much or how little to run the ball with him? Like the rest of it seems fairly straightforward.
Possibly.
Creativity is always good. The offense looked the most dynamic it has. We only got 3 games of Daniels and McLaurin together healthy. So that really was a bummer on that season. So yeah, anyway, that's certainly another name I would suggest. I don't know who. I'm not willing to put a name to a seat yet, but I would say those 3 are more than likely going to have a head coaching position coming into the next season. It started 2026.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to do the same thing we did for the playoffs. I'm going to give you the teams, and I want you to give me a name who you think would end up.
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't do this because you've got the absolute worst. I don't know if I could name 6 head coaching candidates. I'm going to be very honest with you. So
okay, no problem.
We might leave it there.
We'll
have you got any insight? Let's flip it.
I've got names.
You give us, because I've got the names. Okay, so I've got the team names. Who do you see being the head coach of the Oakland Raiders week 1 or the Las Vegas Raiders week 1?
I am going to go with Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, of course, former Miami Dolphins head coach. I think he's in line to get a head coach job, and I think the Raiders may go for someone like him that can probably put a mean defense together and hope they can get in a decent person as OC to put an offense together with the expectation that Mendoza is going to be their first pick now and their new quarterback going forward. So we'll see with that.
The Cleveland Browns.
I have Chris Shula, who is the Rams defensive coordinator at the moment. He has attracted a lot of head coaching eyes. You're going to see, once the Rams are done this season, he is going to get interview requests for almost every team. So I think that from going from Stefanski, who is an offensive guy, I think they'll go and flip it to have a defensive head coach.
Well, here, because I actually do have a name for this one. This is where I would say is most likely for me that Cliff Kingsbury lands. They've got the young, kind of funky offense. He likes his gadget plays. The defense, in my mind, looks after itself as long as they can get most of the boys to come back. That's been pretty good, actually, this year. So I think they're going to take an offensive guy to try and, especially one that's kind of renowned for jazzing things up a little bit. That's where I reckon he's going to go. The Tennessee Titans.
this is where I had Cliff Kingsbury going.
Interesting. Also a good option because I think Ward
Yeah.
could do with some steering, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I wrote this out before the news that he was sacked as OC as Commanders.
Yeah.
So
They're
I
just,
wrote
for
this
whatever reason,
before
they're
that
being more
came out.
polite.
Yeah.
Everyone keeps saying the DC was fired and he was let go. Like, that's in the same article. That's real harsh. Like, just give us both the discretion, or else just say we were both fired.
Yeah. Mutually agreed to go
at the end of the
ways or whatever.
At the end of the day, before the end of my contract says, you're saying, please don't work for me anymore. That's a firing in anybody's books.
Exactly. So yeah, that's where I thought he might end up.
I think they need Stefanski. I think that's where Stefanski's going to go. Bit of experience, settle the ship, try and do a little bit of what who's the head coach for the Patriots this season? Vrabel. Try and do a bit of Vrabel, settle everything down, get the water calmed a little bit, and figure out. He rebuilt, in 6 years, how many times did he rebuild the Browns? Probably 5 times, in fairness. Now, you could argue did any of them work, but he certainly is used to having to come in. And
he got them to the playoffs twice and won a playoff game.
So that to me is the only reason I would put those two names together. The New York Giants.
I had Kevin Stefanski taking this job.
Also a good option for Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
I would go Morris as my alternative, because I actually do think he's going to get another head coaching job. But I don't know why. I have much less of a reason for that one. Just of the 3 that are remaining, I feel like if he's going to get another head coaching job, that's the one that fits the best, given the other ones.
Yeah, I think Kevin Stefanski would love to work with Jackson Dart.
Me too. I think he could do. I think he could do some good work. They're really strange because I think the roster and even the performances at times during the season was not good, but better than what the record suggests it was. I just think they got to figure out an identity a little bit. Like that defense is all right. The offense had some, they found a nice tight end in there, and Dart kind of settled down a little bit towards the end, in my opinion. I don't necessarily like his personality, but I like his attitude, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And then we've got 2 teams left, 2 of the bigger shit shows, I would argue. The Atlanta Falcons.
I have Clint Kubiak taking that Seahawks offensive coordinator.
Okay, big blow for you then.
It would be, but I think you can't have a 14-3 team and not lose one of 2 coordinators. And because Mike McDonald is de facto head coach and DC, that means the other one, being the OC, Clint Kubiak, would be in line to get a head coach job. And I think I don't want to lose him, but look, listen, if you have a chance to be a head coach in the NFL, you got to take it.
Fair enough. And the oldest team in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals, who's going to be their newest head coach?
The Cardinals always make weird choices.
They do. They'll whip somebody out. They'll hire someone out of college, I would say.
Yeah. I tried to go for someone obscure or something, not obscure even.
Chip Kelly.
But no, bring Pete Carroll back.
Yeah, Carroll back,
I've gone for Joe Brady, who was the Bills' offensive coordinator.
I hadn't. I wasn't aware.
I have no rhyme or reason for it, but he's a name that has attracted some head coaching opportunities in the last season or 2. He will get interviews, and I just think the Cardinals would be the one that'd be he'd be the only one. That'd be the guy that they go for, but that'd be the only team that want him, if you know what I mean. He wouldn't be the hottest choice, but they'll go for him. Fair.
I have no names to add to that list, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I think that's a good place to wrap up this show.
Absolutely.
Right about the nearly an hour chatting absolute tripe about the NFL, because all of our predictions are going to be wrong. And
based on no analytics or insider information.
Yeah, and we'll be here next week to discuss how wrong we were. So hopefully,
that's the beauty. No one listens, so we don't have to go back and check. We just roll on as if exactly what we predicted happened is going to happen. So
I'm clipping all of this now, and then I'm just, if it does come true, I'm putting it out there. Before we go, make sure you do follow us on the socials at UnderCenterPod on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. That's where you're going to find us. If you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel while you're at it too. We are getting we are at the business end of the NFL season, but that also means we're getting close to the AFI season, which is where we really get to talking about proper football here on this island of Ireland. Thank you, as always, to Rain Rocks Web Design. They are the sponsors of this show, and they are the team behind UCP.ie. That's where you're going to find all the latest shows, and you'll find the latest tables and results from the AFI. I think that's everything. If you want to listen to us on the go, Understand the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where you follow us. That's where you can get us. Listen to us on the go. Listen to some old shows as well. Fionn, as always, thank you very much.
Pleasure as always.
Enjoy the rest of the NFL season, because you don't have to worry about your own team anymore on this. So you kind of have, you get to kick back kick back, stick your feet up and watch, hopefully, some quality football over the weekend. But until next time, stay safe and we'll see you soon.